we have to be confident about who we are. I think it's better to engage the world on the basis of who we are rather than try and please the world as a pale imitation of what they are. And there was a time when in this part of the world, we were pretty much the only democracy. So if democracy is global today, or we see it as global today, I think in some measure that credit is due to India.
Dr. S Jaishankar, Minister of External Affairs, India. Mr. Minister, let me turn to you. So I thought maybe we could use this opportunity for you to disclose some of your private meetings with the leaders you meet during your visit. You don't have to name them. You can just give us some anecdotes. I mean, and let me kind of frame it. Maybe you can tell us, as you travel through the various countries that you visit, what is the most often heard criticism or complaint or maybe a curious question that you hear that befuddles them in terms of our actions, and also perhaps a flavor of what they want from you. What is their expectation from you? So I think a mix of both, that what befuddles them and what excites them about your visit, when you go and visit them or when a Prime Minister visits them. If you disclose names, it will be good, but also without names, it will be fine.
Thank you. I would give you a more analytical and probably more detached answer than you are expecting. So look, when we are looking at India at 75, it's not just India at 75, we're also looking at another 25 years ahead. What have we done? Where have we fallen short? What do we want to do? Because those are often the conversations we have when we go out. If I were to pick a single thing we've done, a difference we've made to the world in the last 75 years, it is the fact that we are a democracy. If today there's a sense in the world that, for all the ups and downs of history, what's happening in different geographies, but somehow in all of us there is that gut sense that democracy is in some form the future. A large part of it is due to the choices that India made and choices that India stuck with in very difficult situations. And there was a time when in this part of the world, we were pretty much the only democracy. So if democracy is global today, or we see it as global today, I think in some measure that credit is due to India. Now, it's also fair when we look back at 75 years, we should reflect on where we have come up short. And I would say there are 2-3 areas which are quite obvious. One, clearly we didn't pay the kind of attention to our social indicators, our human resources, as we should have. 2, we didn't concentrate as much on manufacturing and technology strengths as we should have. And 3, in terms of foreign policy, probably in the mix of various elements, we didn't give as much importance, as much weight to hard security as we should have. And I say this because, this is not a polemical criticism of the past. Other countries who were in similar situations did exactly this, and which is one of the reasons why some of them are today ahead. And it is something we are trying to do now. I mean, these are exactly the areas we are trying to correct at this point of time. So it's not that it can't be done. It is being done even as we speak. So what is it I think we should be doing in the future? One, I would say most of all, to me, the next 25 years is about capability, capability, and capability in every possible domain, in every possible way. We should be completely fixated on outcomes. We should be utterly practical about how we leverage the international environment. So a lot of the conversations which we have when we go abroad is about capability building. The second is, and that goes back to some remarks you made about how we are perceived. Look, we have to be confident about who we are. I think it's better to engage the world on the basis of who we are rather than try and please the world as a pale imitation of what they are. This idea that others define us, that somewhere there we need to get approval of other quarters, I think that's an era we need to put behind us. And definitely I would hope in the next 25 years we will be even more deeply international in terms of our commitments, in terms of our responsibilities, in terms of our role than we are. And since you're asking me, so all these conversations say something which is of interest. I must say my morning was made today by meeting a fellow foreign minister who told me that Gujarat is ahead of globalization. Actually, he said Gujarat doesn't need globalization. They're already out there. I think in a way, I would hope in the next 25 years, India too is actually at the forefront of a kind of a right kind of globalization, more decentralized, more fair, one which works for everybody, and one which is not leveraged, which is not weaponized.
Isn't it? Let me ask you, let's flip this question. What do we expect from the world? We have some key partners, we are diving into certain key relationships, whether it's the EU, whether it's the US, whether it's big investments into or political and economic investments into Africa. What are we seeking from the world as we move to the capacity stage of our next 25 years?
I think I would look at it. I think I'll tell you what we should not be doing. We shouldn't be looking at the world with a sense of entitlement. You know, we need to earn our place in the world, and which to a certain extent would therefore come to the issue of how does the world benefit by the growth of India. We need to demonstrate that. I think today, when there's a lot of talk about reliable, resilient supply chains, when people speak about transparency and trusted technologies, if India could do more and show the rest of the world that the world benefits by India being bigger, so we need to develop stakes in our future where the rest of the world is concerned. I think some of that is happening. Some of that is happening for strategic reasons, obviously, but we need to make more of it happen, especially for economic.
We'll take a bunch of questions. Okay, do introduce yourself and short questions.
Thank you
Go
very
ahead.
much. Thank you very much, Dr. Hai Quen from Tel Aviv University, Israel. My question is to Minister of Foreign Affairs of India. You spoke about self-confidence. We really appreciate, we really are aware of the fact that India is the largest democracy in the world and it is a rising power. So my question is to you is regarding what are your plans for turning India into a permanent member of the UN Security Council? Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Thanks, Samir. So my name is Mohammed. I am from Egypt and I am with the Raisina Dialogue. So my question is to His Excellency the Minister of India, Mr. Jaishankar. You mentioned yesterday the efforts of India to increase the food supply and increase the production of wheat. So could you please elaborate on that?
Please go ahead. Please.
Thank you, Samir. My name is Esther. I'm from Foreign Policy Community of Indonesia. My question is to Your Excellency Minister Jaishankar. Earlier, you said that in the future, India should be confident and that it should define itself based on what it thinks of itself, not what the world think of itself. Just today, there's an article released in Foreign Affairs by Dr. Shashi Tharoor saying that India should be clear on its stance on Ukraine, and I quote, "An India that equivocated on Ukraine cannot blame others for responding with the same indifference if China decided to teach it a lesson and we throw this."
Shashi is sitting right here.
Yes. So I'm wondering, what are your thoughts about this? Because Indonesia is in a way in the same stance in India. We don't want to choose sides, but at the same time, we have this big question of neutrality and many others. Thank you so much.
And final question here.
The key Deputy Chief of Mission Embassy of Indonesia. My question is to Dr. Jaishankar. It's quite simple. You are saying that 75 years of independence of India is about what has been achieved so far. My question is, and what you are looking to do for the next 25 years. How do you see the Indo-Pacific region and the world for the next 25 years? This is for Dr. Jaishankar and for all the panelists.
The gentleman there and no more questions. Last question there. We have.
This is Vijay from Kathmandu. I have a question to External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar. When India was independent, it has created a democratic movement in all other Southeastern countries. What you are looking for during the more 25 years as a democratic institutions, and what India has looking to bilateral relations and multilateral relations with other Southeastern countries? Thank you.
Okay, I'll take you. Go ahead, Patrick.
Thank you very much. Patrick Kugiel, I'm from the Polish Institute of International Affairs in Warsaw, Poland. I have a question to His Excellency Minister Jaishankar. In your book, The India Way, you wrote that India must be more ready and willing to take a risk in international affairs, and that India will be more decider, shaper, rather than abstainer. But yet, for the last 2 months, India abstained at least 11 times at the different forums at the UN on different resolutions concerning Russian aggression against Ukraine. So my question is, wasn't that a good moment, actually, to take a risk and to have a more principled position, not to abstain, but to
Question
say,
is, what is the question?
I got a question.
You got a question. Okay.
Thank you very
So
much.
it is.
Yes, I think people shouldn't just pick on me. Let's sort of broaden it out. But look, let me give very quick replies because I know the clock is ticking. It's, on the Security Council, we have our plan. The problem is we need to have other people to have a plan which is similar to our plan.
Correct.
On the wheat, I answered it yesterday, which was, we have a significant wheat production. We would obviously like to go into the global markets and try to compensate for the shortfalls as much as we can. In fact, in respect of Egypt, because that's where the question came from, it's one of the countries with whom we are talking. There were two Ukraine issues, one relating to Shashi's article, and in fairness, I haven't read it, but she was going through it at a high speed, which was too fast for me. But
Shashi also wrote it at high speed.
Yes, I know. I'm not sure I would understand it very much better after reading it either. Here's the point, and it goes to the last question. We spent a lot of time yesterday on Ukraine, and I've tried to explain what our views are, but also explain that in our minds, the best way forward is to focus on stopping the fighting, getting the talking, and finding ways of moving forward. And we think our choices, our positions are best placed to advance that. The question which I had about, where are you going to go 25 years from now? I think more or less I answered that, we think more international, we think stronger capability, we think more relevance to the world, and obviously to the Indo-Pacific as well. And the question which the person from Nepal asked on South Asia, that in a sense, 75 years, there's more democracy in South Asia than there was 75 years ago. Where will we be 25 years from now? I would say probably the shortest, most truthful answer to that would be we would like to see more prosperity in South Asia. That if India has been, in a sense, an example of democracy or a promoter of democracy in South Asia, we would now like to be part of a larger lifting tide so that the rest of South Asia grows along with us.
Mr. Minister, final words.
I mostly agree with what everybody said, and not out of courtesy, but really out of a genuine belief. I think India, EU, no disrespect to anybody else, including Canada, but I really think India, EU, because this has been very much a session with EU at the focus, beginning with the keynote. The India-EU partnership needs more attention, needs more work, needs more commitment, and needs to get a higher profile.